Good morning. How are you? Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. Hi, everybody. As always, we're going to get right to it. And the first order of business today, since we have had many changes, and there's a couple people running a little late, but we're going to go ahead anyway. What we do just about every year, elect the new chair, vice chair, and secretary. The secretary's role is pretty much just to serve as part of the executive committee, for lack of a better term. So we'll start with the chair, and anyone have any nominations for chair of SOLOCO for the next year?
Yes, I nominate you.
It's one of those jobs that you can't get rid of. Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. Any comments? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay. Next, we have vice chair, and I have a nomination. I nominate Mayor Alan Perry. Do I have a second? Do I have a third? Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any comments? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Congratulations, Alan. And I just informed him that he's going right to work, because February 27th, I'm going to be where Larry Toomer is right now. So we're putting him right in the fire. Next is secretary, and serving in that role has been Matt from Yemassee, and he is the incumbent. Do I have any nominations for secretary?
I
would like to nominate Matt again. It's a good mix, so we have all parts of the two counties together. So we have a motion, we have a second. Any comments? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Congratulations, Matt. You have been reelected. Next, at the last board meeting, everyone will recall that we asked to get an update on the penny sales tax. And that is being proposed for this year's referendum. And we invited Mr. Dean Moss, the chairman of the Citizen Transportation Advisory Committee, to give us an update on that potential referendum for 2024. I have some handouts here that Dean brought for the board. We'll pass them around let them go around as far as they will go. And if we have any extras, please pass them to those in the audience. Dean, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I apologize. I got a little cold, so I'm kind of hoarse and rough here. But I understand that County Council has already taken some preliminary action on this, so I'm going to present you what the committee came up with, and ultimately something will occur, but this is where we start anyway. I chaired the committee. It was my pleasure to chair it, even though they elected me when I wasn't there. I chaired the previous one, and they apparently liked that. But basically, we have a penny now in effect in Beaufort County, which is the green penny. And based upon the rate of money brought in as a result of this penny, it's going to end well before the 2 years. It's a 2 years or 100 million, whichever comes in first, and it will end well before the 2 years. So there will not be a situation where we would have two pennies going at one time if in fact this one were to pass. Roughly 40% to 45% of this is paid by visitors to Beaufort County. And those visitors are tourists, or conceivably they're folks from Jasper County who are coming into Beaufort County to shop. But generally, 40 to 45% paid by visitors. Important to note, and I think you all know this, that there are many things which this tax will not apply to. It will not apply to food, for example. So it's designed in such a way, and this is true at the state level, that it's designed to avoid impacting the real needs of people, particularly those on the lower end of the income bracket. The plan we propose has a lot of flexibility in it. There's a lot of what we call buckets, which are collections of amounts of money which can be used for various things in various categories. But the whole thing is based upon the concept that the cities and the county will cooperate very, very carefully on this. My understanding is that the county will control the money, but none of this happens without cooperation between the county and the cities. So that's kind of where we start. Basically, we recommended that they prepare a referendum ballot to go on the referendum in November, asking the electorate to approve a 1 penny sales tax for 15 years. And that 15-year sales tax, if approved, would produce about $1.65 billion in Beaufort County. Again, 40%, 45% paid by visitors. It would be proceeds would be spent for a series of critical transportation issues, transportation opportunities, transportation requirements. And we also recommended that they appoint an advisory committee to help oversee how particularly the second portion of this allocation is spent. The committee had 6 members, 3 from south of the Broad, 3 from north of the Broad. My job was to represent the town of Port Royal and the city of Beaufort, which I have appeared before both those councils to discuss what was said. We had one person from Bluffton, 1 person from Hilton Head, and 1 person from the unincorporated areas. And in north of the Broad, we essentially had 2 people from the unincorporated areas. We looked at different sales tax options. There were 3 that we considered: education, capital projects, and transportation. Education was looked at that point preliminarily because this was before the November referendum vote, and there was an education referendum on the ballot. And there was some concern that that education referendum would not pass. And if it had not passed, I think that we would have had at least a serious discussion about whether we ought to bring forward an education penny, because those dollars are, again, equally critical. But it passed, and so we moved on to either capital projects or transportation. Of those 2, transportation seemed to us, just based upon the lives we live, that would be the most important. Projects take so long, they are so expensive, that in order to fix a lot of the issues that we have here, we need to be moving now and not waiting into the future. So we came forward and we're proposing a transportation referendum. Conceptually, we broke the proposed groups of projects down into 2 parts. The first is what we call big projects. These are specific projects designed to meet specific needs, to address real problems that are out there right now. And I'm going to go through what those are. And we recommended that we put in that big project category $300 million into projects south of the Broad and $175 million into projects north of the Broad. And then we left $175 million kind of in the bank for future projects. When I made this presentation to the Port Royal and Beaufort, in both meetings, somebody said, "What about the 3rd bridge?" Which has been, of course, if you have been around for a while, has been a matter of discussion north of the Broad for a long time. Third bridge to Ladies Island. But they had a number of people in both council meetings who were adamant about the need to spend money and get started on the third bridge. That's not a recommended project in this package, but it is referenced as the kind of thing that some of that what we call big project unallocated $175 million could be spent for. The second package is what we call project programs. I call them buckets. There's about $975 million in that package, and I'll go through each of the kind of types of projects that might be considered here. They're undeniably required. They can't really be defined, A, because they're small, conceivably, B, because they haven't been figured out yet, C, because most of them are going to be scattered all over the place. So I'll get to those in some detail. Again, about $975 million going into that package. Okay, we recommend this go into effect for 15 years. And that would raise roughly $1.625 billion over 15 years. But remember that if we have these dollars, we have the ability to take and get state dollars and federal dollars. We can multiply the amount of money we're raising locally by access to the federal and state money. And I think that's a real something to look at very, very carefully. So, big projects. What did we recommend? First is the triangle. Argent Boulevard, 170, 278. That's a project that's going to have to be done cooperatively with Jasper County and Hardeeville. We know what the problem is there. It's pretty obvious. The continuing development of Sun City across Argent Boulevard and a whole lot of other stuff that's happening in that corridor is creating problems today. I've been subject to it, as probably many of you have. If you're coming south and something happens at the corner of Argent and 170, traffic will back up all the way back up almost to Ridgeland on that road and almost to the Broad River on the other road. So that's an area we're going to have to deal with. Rebo Road improvements. The county did a project which prepared what I'll consider to be a preliminary analysis of options and approaches for improving Rebo Road. And so we've allocated about $75 million. The triangle gets about $100 million. $75 million to Rebo Road. And Rebo Road is, in many cases, a serious issue. If you are going to Ladies Island or coming from Ladies Island in the morning and the afternoon, particularly if you're going to Ladies Island, coming from the Paris Island, coming from the south, traffic literally backs up all the way to Port Royal, trying to turn right and get across that bridge. It's a real issue. And there are lots of other opportunities there in terms of making Rebo Road more efficient, more attractive, safer, better for pedestrians. There's lots of opportunities there. It's very densely developed along the edges. We've got hospitals, we've got schools, we've got all kinds of stuff there that need to be figured out. In Bluffton, Highway 46 improvements, about $20 million. Essentially looking at two things. First, the extension of the 4-lane all the way to the Jasper County line. And if you've been along there, there's been work done on there. Beaufort Jasper's done a bunch of big pipe work along there recently. So that's Project A, and Project B is improvements in left turn lanes, intersections, etc., along 46 going to 170, with the idea that we maintain the designation of the scenic parkway that we have on that road. Number 4 would be Ladies Island corridor improvements. This was in the 18 penny sales tax project for about $40 million. That apparently, based upon what I can understand right now, represented about half of what the actual cost was for those projects. It's a whole series of projects designed to kind of take traffic away from those intersections to make sure you can get kids in and out of the high school safely. There's just a number of variables that have to be dealt with on there. It's clear that we're going to have to spend a lot more money in that area just to keep the growth on Ladies Island is continuing to go fast. You're starting to get more growth coming in from St. Helena. And so when you combine that with the tourism and everybody heading out to Hunting Island, it's becoming a nightmare out there in terms of traffic. Particularly, for example, if the swing bridge breaks and you can't get across the swing bridge to get into Beaufort. You've created an incredible spot. Fifth, we have recommended for Bluffton municipal projects, undefined, $60 million. We have recommended for Hilton Head municipal projects, generally undefined, but understood to have a whole lot to do with Sea Pine Circle and the issues that are occurring on Sea Pine Circle right now as a problem. But another $60 million to go there. And for north of the Broad, generalized transportation improvements for Beaufort and Port Royal, and with obviously the need to expand beyond those, another $60 million. So the municipalities generally get in this process an allocated pot of money is going to be available to them in different ways. And then again, as I said, another one, $60 million to go to Highway 278 project enhancements. Those are going to be connected with the bridge, is what my engineers have told me. Basically, improvements of various kinds on 278, and then improvements on the bridge area, improvements on access and egress from that area. There's a lot of work left to be done on that project, as we know. And then $175 million for future projects. This is a 15-year proposal. So whatever we think we're dealing with today, we can guarantee that we will be dealing with something different 10 years from now and 15 years from now. So it's a significant attempt, at least our proposal is, to get with the fact that these problems are not going to get less. Just looking at developments that I know are being proposed right now in Jasper County, particularly whether you're going up toward Ridgeland or whether you're going out toward 95, and just more stuff. We're going to have to figure out how to deal with it, because those folks aren't just going to stay in Jasper County. They're going to want to come to Beaufort one way or the other into Beaufort County. So those are the big projects. We have a series of let's see, I'm going to put these things in the wrong place. We have what we call project programs and amounts. Mass transit, about $100 million. If we're going to, it's hard to imagine a serious mass transit program just because of the way people like to be in their cars and traveling around. But we have to try to get there. If we can move people into mass transit and get them out of their cars, it's going to make everything easier as we go down the road. This also includes ferries. We've looked at the concept. We didn't look at it very deeply, but the concept of a fast ferry coming from Beaufort Port Royal area to Hilton Head, you can probably do it in 20 minutes based upon the technologies that are out there for ferry service right now. So there are some real opportunities here that we at a minimum, we need to be looking at carefully. Whether we spend a bunch of money building them, that's one thing, but we ought to look at them very hard. We have another $250 million in safety and traffic flow, safety improvements along roadways, intersections to include pedestrian accommodations, etc. Again, these buckets are an amalgam of things. And if there's a project that the town of Bluffton has that can fit into one of these things, and they ought to go say, this is what we want to do. And there's, you know, $250 million there that we can utilize to do these kinds of things. Emergency evacuation and resiliency. We're continuing to grow. Right now, the roads out of here are generally not getting any bigger. And so this is one of these areas where at some point, council is going to have to decide how closely it wants to work with Jasper, Hampton, and Colleton in terms of improving the roads that people will be using if they evacuate this county in the event, when they do, not if they do, when they do, in the event of a serious hurricane. We're going to have to look at that stuff pretty carefully. One example that I like to use for people that fits into this category, in my opinion, and many of you may know where Warsaw Island is. Many of you may not. It's on between Ladies Island and Hilton Head, basically. Ladies Island and St. Helena. Right now, at a serious high tide, there is anywhere up to 6 inches of salt water on the road going to that island. So if you're driving, if you live there and you're having to go back and forth to work, you know, you're splashing salt water up, you know, onto the bottom of your vehicle. There's probably 6 or 7, maybe more roads like that out on St. Helena. They may be. I'm not aware of any down here south of the Broad, but there probably are. I know we've got some up in the Burton area as well. So these are issues that eventually we're going to have to come to grips with. Pavement resurfacing and preservation, $180 million. Right now in Beaufort County, I can't remember, Mr. Chairman or Alice, you may remember how many unpaved dirt roads that the county owns, not dirt roads that are private, but dirt roads that the county owns. As a general statement, everybody wants those, all those people that live on those roads want them paved. We've been getting about 3 done a year, but the number we have out there is in the 40s, 40 or 50 roads. So we're going to have to deal with the fact that at some point we're going to have to keep doing this. We're going to have to be repaving these roads. That's one key part of this. The other key part of it is if we can invest in the preservation of our asphalt roads before they get to the point that they have to be repaved, we can extend the lives of those roads by multiple years. And so these are dollars which would be invested, county roads, city roads, state roads, not private, but if it's public, it's eligible. And we should be working to get those kinds of things done. Pathways, $180 million. In the 18 referendum, we approved, I think, $10 million for pathways. We've spent a little bit of that right now, not a lot. I'm building the Spanish Moss Trail, so I'm kind of attuned to that kind of thing. But the county has produced an excellent pathway master plan for Beaufort County, and we see this as a way to get these kinds of things done. We do recommend that there were, I forget how many projects were listed in the approved, in the 18 referendum. There are a lot of them, way beyond our ability to pay for them with that money. But our attitude is that we ought to be focusing on getting those done, or at least run through a pretty intense analysis to make sure we know what we're doing. And if the ones that are on that list are the ones we should be doing, we should do those first. And then finally, transportation technologies, access roads. The amount of energy, the amount of electronic energy we can be spending on these intersections is significant, and we've not even scratched the surface on our ability to manage stoplights and stoplight traffic, so that if there's no cars coming, the light don't turn red. You know, you keep it green until you got to turn it red. There's all kinds of stuff like that. And then another 85 million for green belts. Green belts are an allowable expenditure under the transportation referendum. And so our recommendation would be another 85 million, which is then effectively turned over to the Green Penny Task Force for its use. So those basically are the pots, but it's important to think about those and I say this principally to the mayors and managers, and that these are broad definitions. And so if there's a project that can fit in there, that you can make fit in there, then that's what you want to do. You know, I mean, there's enough flexibility here. County council will oversee the expenditures. They'll be in charge of the money. And so, again, come back to my first point, working with them, working together, I think is a critical part of this process. I've been doing this in this county now for almost 40 years, and I've seen examples of good relationships between the county councils and the municipalities, and I've seen examples of horrible relationships between the county councils and the municipalities. And we really have to focus on good relationships. We do recommend a Citizens Oversight Committee. We were really inspired by the school board's committee that they put together. And so we're recommending something like that, 7 members that council would select to kind of serve as a bouncing board, particularly for these you know, unnamed projects, the buckets of money. We recommend that revenue bonds be issued, and that we utilize these green space dollars as we can to reduce long-term demand for highway space. And we do need a mass transit master plan. We do not have one in Beaufort County. We don't have a real oversight countywide, countywide master plan, because that's what it's got to be. It's got to be both Jasper and Beaufort counties, looking at how we're moving people around and how quickly. Example, a number of people say we need a little trolley service that just runs in Beaufort, from Beaufort over to Ladies Island, around, down, back to Port Royal, and back to Beaufort. Just a loop, runs all the time, so that you can get on in one spot and get off in another spot and do your shopping and then get home. Mr. Chairman, that's the extent of my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, what we'll do is open it up to the board first for questioning and then the public. But before we do that, we've had some new arrivals since we started, and I'd like to welcome to the board Mayor Phil Cromer. Welcome, Mayor, and congratulations on your new challenge for the next 4 years.
Appreciate that.
Okay, so the board is sitting at the table here. Any questions for Mr. Moss?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question, if I may.
Yes, please.
Mr. Moss, this is Danny Lucas from Jasper County. You mentioned the request for perhaps a master plan for transit. Was that, did I hear you say that would be hopefully for Beaufort County as well as Jasper County?
I don't see how you can avoid that. I think we are so interrelated in terms of people moving back and forth between these two counties. We an enormous amount of labor coming out of Jasper County into Beaufort County. Workers are moving back and forth all the time. There's all kinds of reasons to doing that. So yes, I believe that you've got to have a well thought out master plan for both counties.
Anyone else? I have a couple. First of all, the 1.65 billion over 15 years. That's like $110 million a year. Isn't that a lot higher than previous? Is that an anticipated growth? I thought, what's the current rate of collection on a penny?
I could be wrong. Well, I thought the green penny was just done, it was estimated to be 100, and it's supposed to be made up within the year, I think. So I think they're using that as their basis. So If you look at the green penny's gonna be done in less than a year, and it's gonna generate the 100 million, I think that's the,
Okay.
and they use like a, I think it's, I don't know if the microphone, I think y'all use, I think it was like a 3% growth estimate each year based on that to, so if it's $1 million now, then it grow 3% each year, so it may be $1.5 million by the time that it gets to the end.
It's a lot higher than I thought. That's good. Who, with this committee, who sets the priorities? So there's 16 things that are listed here. And who would set the priorities? What comes first? What comes second?
Well, I think from the big project standpoint, the concept is that the Triangle Project, Rebo Road, 46, very specific projects need to move as quickly as you can. Ladies Island improvements need to move as quickly as you can go. So you're looking at a bond issue once you get this approved, you go to the bond market and you borrow, $100 million, $200 million and get going. In terms of those other projects, I think that essentially they'll be filled. Those pots, if you will, can be filled over a period of time. But I think that's at this point on the big projects. I think it's county council's responsibility to figure out what the priorities are. But
Okay, so that would be the recommendation of the committee. But once it passed, then there's got to be some entity who will make that decision. Joe, is that county council's responsibility?
I think it's going to be a combination of the county council's responsibility with cooperation and coordination of the municipalities and the citizens committee that is going to have the oversight.
Okay. One of the questions that I know I've heard around regarding past referendums and past transportation is that there's some projects that haven't happened even from the last one penny. Will there be a schedule once the priority's set? Will there be a schedule? Okay, this has got to be done by X period of time. Because without a schedule, it could just hang out there forever, right?
Right. And again, I got dragged in here to do this.
I'm sorry for
suggestion.
dragging.
So I'm not on the engineering staff or anything else, and I don't work for the county. So my attitude would be that, again, those are priorities and schedules that need to be done by the staffs, principally county engineering staff, working with the engineering staffs and staffs of the municipalities. It'll take some time to figure this stuff out, but if they work together, I think that there are real opportunities here.
Yeah, I think I may not be asking the right question, but these questions may be asked by the electorate, and before, they may be interested in these questions before they decide whether to vote yes or no. So I think they are issues, and I guess it should be directed to county council, that should be taken into consideration as you present this to the public. Any other questions from the board before I turn it to the public?
I do. You made mention earlier, which I think is of the utmost importance, about the funding from DOT and the state. We're doing this because we want to control our own roads and our funding. But there is a plethora of money at the state level that needs to go into these projects. But I just want to make certain that that's not going to be put to the side and not, the efforts aren't going to go into it trying to get those funds. Because if we can get matching from some of the state or feds, like you said, it will expand our fund for a lot longer. And that's one of the other questions that's coming around is why are we not, going to the state? So as you go forward with the public information, that's going to be one of the other conversations that needs to be had. So that there's an understanding that we're trying to control our future and not leave it up to somebody else.
That is quite evident from what happened with the bridge project. We were able to go to the SIB and say, we have $80 million in hand as a result of our referendum. With this kind of money in the next referendum, we can go back to them, and we look very good because we have skin in the game, and that's the only way the state is going to fund anything, is if you have skin in the game.
But for the general public, for the communication piece, that is utmost
Oh,
importance.
absolutely, yeah. And everybody should know, County Council last night took the first action, the first reading of the ordinance to create the referendum. We did have 4 amendments to that. It's a very lengthy document that has to be spelled out. The 4 amendments were, as a result of some conversations, we did remove the word in the document, reimagine, when we were talking about Rebo Road. We did specify the dollar value for bonding up to $650 million for bonding. We did include specifically the recommendation for the Citizens Advisory Committee. And we did include the fact that because it is a county referendum, the funding flows through the county. So those were the 4 amendments. On February the 6th, we will have the second reading and the public hearing on this. We need to move as fast as we possibly can so that we can do the education, like you're saying, letting the people know as much specificity as we possibly can, much education as we can possibly do within the guidelines of, you know, we have to educate, not advocate.
Joe, was the dollar amount as recommended by the committee?
$1.625 billion over 15 years. Yes, everybody knows that it is going to take that long and that amount of money for us to catch up and be where we want to be with the road systems and everything that's in the recommendation.
Mike?
Just to answer Mayor Perry, the Beaufort, Jasper, and the city of Hardyville sent an letter to Secretary Hall about the Triangle Project and 278 improvements from 95. So we're trying to get them on board, so she was well aware of it. So that's a good thing, soliciting their support. The only question I have to the chair is, the success or failure of a lot of these issues are based upon public awareness and education. Is the county going to do anything to do some type of public awareness education campaign on this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay? We got sued the last time we did this, so we have to be very careful about education versus advocation. We will do that in cooperation with the municipalities. There are groups within our municipalities, within our counties, that are chomping at the bit to assist us in ensuring that we let everybody know that, number one, this is a sales tax. It is not a property tax. Number two, we're changing 1 penny for 1 penny. There is absolutely no increase. Number three, that one goes away at the end of this year, December 31st of 2024. It is either we collected $100 million or the time is up. We feel we're going to collect it before the end of December. But it'll roll back to the 6% until May of 2025 because it takes that long between the referendum approval, when the state rolls out everything, they redo everything, so there is going to be a lag there.
Danny, what are the prospects for Jasper County? I understand Jasper County loses its 1% transportation sales tax from 2016. So the same issues Does it look like Jasper County will follow suit and have a referendum as well?
Yes, sir, it does appear that that will be the case. Jasper County and Ridgeland and Hardyville sat down some months ago and discovered that we have about $500 million in requests for road improvements. This is over and beyond the allocations that would normally be expected for the DOT. So the point is that we have a tremendous need for repaving, pavings, and expansions of roadways. In fact, so much so that we're talking about development impact fees for transportation, starting with development impact fees and then moving on from there. So yes, there's been serious consideration and conversation about the need for capital improvements for transportation.
Thank you. Anyone, Stephen?
Just to go along with the DOT question that was asked in discussion, I would just remind everybody about LATs, because all these projects that they're looking at are on the long-term plan for LATs, and that's the key to getting the studies done. They've got the funding, and getting the funding from the state is making sure that we keep those priorities in place. So I think we're all members of that, just making sure that we're making sure those things, the priorities for LATs are lining up with the priorities for what we're looking to fund, so.
And I think, and this goes back to Alan's question, at some point, having some sort of joint meeting with both delegations, both the Beaufort and the Beaufort-Jasper delegation, probably needs to happen sooner rather than later.
And I think it would be great if DOT could come into part of that discussion as well, just to have their input, to know where we stand and what we think, especially with the new secretary coming in. Things will change.
Anyone else from the board before I open it up to the public? Okay. We have a large and distinguished public. Would anyone like to ask questions regarding the potential referendum?
Mike over there. Set up, so you have one. Is that set up? Yeah.
Sorry, I'll talk loud.
Emeritus.
So at the many things I've been attending with our special election candidates, I've heard comments from a lot of people about the penny. They're very confused what it means, like Joe said. But they said, why would we support this when we hit ruts and bumps on Bluffton Parkway? It's going to be a point of contention to say, why are we going to spend this penny when we can't even take care of the roads we have? So I would address that with Jared and maybe county council on getting that out. I wrote it today, and I didn't think there were bumps until I wrote it. And we got a lot of gullies, and Dan's brought that up many times. But other than that, now I can advocate and educate. So just a comment.
We may need you as an advocate.
To that point, we discussed the Bluffton Parkway last night and have a plan to address some of that. And people thought, well, you know, why are there some holes in there? It's only 2 years old. I said, wait a second, add another 2 on there. It's over 20 years old. And it is reached its life expectancy for the roadway. So we have to address that.
Anyone else from the public? Yes, sir.
Yes, I'd like to know what Jasper County is doing to educate the citizens of Jasper County about this penny tax. So we have Joe was mentioning what they're doing in Beaufort County, what they're doing in Jasper County.
Anyone to answer that, or you want Mike to answer that?
Mike can go ahead and answer that, but look, so far we haven't gotten to that.
I'll answer it, so I won't put it. We are scheduling a meeting with Ridgeland, Jasper County, and Hardyville. We're trying to coordinate the dates now to answer those very questions. Okay. So we haven't met totally as councils yet.
Yes, sir, that's it.
Anyone else from the public? Yes, please.
Everyone, Taylor Labby for Jasper Water and Sewer. Just like to take the opportunity with all of the municipalities and partner agencies represented here. Please keep Beaufort Jasper in mind when you start planning some of these projects. This is a great opportunity for collaboration and coordination with our capital projects plan. I think, for example, where we go road is a great opportunity for us to collaborate on sewer projects. So, thank you so much.
That's an excellent point, and for the board, if you recall, when we were discussing the 2024 agenda items, we want to have presentations from the utilities in the first 6 months of this year. So when we get to the agenda discussions, we can take that in mind. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Dave Kimball, LOWCOUNTRY Bike Walk Advocates. What's the current status? You're talking about the triangle for providing bicycle pathways or enhancements as the triangle is rebuilt and or 170.
That's all part of the future design. We know that the triangle is three roads, 278, 170, and Argent Boulevard. It hasn't been fully designed as yet. We know we have to expand those roads in those areas. We're doing some intermediate short-term solutions on 170. Once the triangle project comes in, then you design the whole project and take into account how do we also have pathways along those routes.
Thank you.
Via LATS was the only thing that's been planned, master planned, is the 170 corridor from 462 to 278. The rest of the triangle has yet to be designed.
And like we discussed, is there a time frame or any sort of table for designing the master plan for the triangle?
Well, first thing is passing this referendum. Without the money, there will be no design.
Thank you.
Yes, Dan.
I just wanted to ask, and we touched on this in a meeting the other day, and so for clarity, and I mentioned low-hanging fruit, like signalization, we synchronize them, the access management plan that has been talked about for a while now for the Parkway and 278, and then asphalt replacement, which Mayor Perry was kind of touching on a minute ago. Is there funding already set aside for some of this through the impact fees?
Yes.
Okay. So these items would start to take place prior to any major initiative that, it's independent of the major initiative?
Yes.
Okay.
If you drive down 170, as most of us do, you see that there are signs up, they're covered in plastic, that will talk about road construction, and you see these orange pipes coming out of the ground. All of that has been done as part of the signalization that's going to take place on 170.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Moss, thank you very much for agreeing to, this was very informative and very helpful. Thank you so much. And thank everyone on your committee for their service in getting this together. Okay, next and finally, we want to talk about our agenda item for February and beyond, because there have been a couple of suggestions. At the last meeting, we said that the board asked for a update on what we touched on today, that green space penny, how much has been collected, what it's going to go for. There has been an alternate suggestion put forth by Chairman Passaman. So before we discuss what we'd like to see. And also what we said last time, that starting in March, in addition to the 30-year priorities that Chairman Passman talked about, that's when we would start inviting the utilities to come and give us an update. So that's what we discussed the last time. Joe, I'm going to turn it over to you to briefly present to the board your suggestions that you emailed me Sunday.
Yes, I think two things can be done. I think the green space penny can be done without taking up the full time. I have proposed items in February, March, April, and May around the referendum. I want to talk about an idea, a puzzle to be put together by all of us. The referendum is the next big thing, but included in that next big thing is our vision of the future. What's it going to look like? How far up should we go? Because if we do nothing, the future is going to determine us. We have a chance to take the quality of life that we have and make recommendations of how we want to keep that quality of life. So I have put together a presentation that could be done in February. Not that action would be taken at that meeting, but it's going to be one of those things that I hope you walk away and go, I didn't think of that. And then come back and we start to prioritize. What do we want to do? As it was said before, what are going to be the priorities? We have possibly $1.625 billion worth of projects that can be done over the next 15 years. How do we prioritize them? Well, if it's a look down the future, we may say, based upon what we believe the priority should be, this is the order we want to take them in. So that would be February. March, we're going to, you'd have a homework assignment at the end of the February meeting that you'll go back to your various constituents and start talking about this, because this is a regional approach that we have to have. Whatever we do is going to affect our entire region. And on top of that, starting next year, I-95 begins to be widened. That is going to have a dramatic impact over time on us. So in March, we can come to priorities, and then we start meeting with our delegation, because they will be in session. They will be finalizing the budget. Here's our opportunity to tell them what we need. And then April, we've got priorities set. We've met with our delegations. We're starting to roll out the information for the public, because by then we will have determined all of the aspects of the referendum. And then May, it is, okay, what are we going to do for the citizens in Hilton Head? What are we going to do in Yemassee? What are we going to do here, there, and everywhere? How do we do it with Jasper County, our partner in Jasper County? Those kinds of things. So that's what I'm proposing that we do over the next several months.
Thank you, Joe. So the board has to, I'm going to ask the board to decide what they want to do. I think the presentation that I've seen from Joe on his 30-year vision will need a whole meeting. So to try to schedule something in there and keep to an hour, I think is unrealistic. So it's up to the board. Do you want to, what do we want to see in February, March? Let's get a couple of months out of the way Originally wanted to have an update on the green penny. Perhaps we could do that and also get one of the utilities in. We probably could fit that in an hour for February if you want. Or we could bring in Joe, who we originally scheduled for March, and have him come up to February. And let's open it up for discussion, what the board would like to see for next month.
Yeah, so, I appreciate exactly where you're going with that, what is the vision, what's happening in the low country that's going to affect us on a day-to-day basis. I like the idea of understanding where we are with the green space, who's made applications, what's being considered, how that also affects the rest of your presentation for the other 3 months, because that goes hand in hand with what is left over to purchase land to take density off the market, and how that affects our transportation issues. So, putting them together, I understand it would be tight, but I think it would be good because it is a limited time that we have to have these discussions and for us to have our input to do as well. And I think that might rank a little bit higher at the moment than the utilities.
Anyone else? So Mayor Perry's suggestion is that we hear Joe's presentation in February and also schedule, and we'll have to do that through you, Joe, an update on the green penny, the collection rate, and the priorities, what has been done. And you're going to have to keep your thumb on so that his first presentation is 30 minutes. Okay? So you got to take care of him, okay? Is everybody okay with that, or any other alternate suggestions? And the next meeting is in Hardyville, okay? Any other comments before we adjourn? We're right in it. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Good job.